Welcome back to the cabin. Today, we're going to prepare a meal that virtually every long hunter has probably enjoyed at one time or another. We're going to cook up some salt pork and some backstrap venison. So we're just gonna, now I brought my knives home to sharpen them up and I forgot to bring them back. So we're using my pocket knife. You never have too many knives. I'm going to cut off a few slices of salt pork. I got this at Kroger's when I was in Kentucky. Now, if you don't have access to salt pork, the easiest way to duplicate it is to take some thick bacon, pour salt on it. It's about that simple. We're not going to cook all this, but we're going to cut it up. Next time it'll just be ready to go. There we go. In the meantime, we'll get the backstrap cut up into slices and it'll be ready to go when the salt pork is done. Have a nice piece of backstrap, and we're just going to cut it into strips. So you might wonder, well, Pat, why do you always cut it into strips? Because by the time I sear it on all sides, it's pretty much cooked. It doesn't take very long, that's for sure. And this is looking good, and it's going to taste good. A little bit of spices on there. Get the backstrap on here, and it'll be done literally in a couple of minutes at the most. I've had this meal lots of times when I was in Kentucky. I used to call it a campfire lunch. And when I was out squirrel hunting, I'd often have this. Sometimes I think it was more about the lunch than it was about the squirrel hunting, but well, that should just about do it. Welcome to our traditional long hunter meal. We have salt pork, backstrap, a little bit of bread. Now, bread wouldn't have been available all the time, but I'm sure it was sometimes, or maybe when they were at home in their cabin. For a beverage, imported from Kentucky, brewed in the state of Ohio, Yingling Black and Tan. America's oldest brewery. I can't quite read the date on it. It looks like 1829. We'll take their word for it. It's a darker beer, and I traditionally like darker lagers. And we have the honey jar. Once again, for those not familiar with the honey jar, when we first bought the property, we did some scouting and walking the property, and we came across these jars, and they have a honeycomb motif on the bottom, so we think they're honey jars, but guess what? They hold the beer pretty darn nice, so kind of a silly tradition we have with our lunches. There we go. Now, if you're wondering if your doctor would recommend this meal, the answer is no. And if you have high blood pressure, the answer is definitely no. Because salt pork is about 50% pork and 50% salt. Okay, it's not quite that bad, but we're working towards it. if you're a saltaholic like I am, it's okay for an occasional treat. If not, it takes some getting used to. Or cooked as well, that's the way I like it. Now, if it had half the salt, maybe even a quarter of the salt, some people would say that's too much. But for me, once in a while, it's a treat. So today what we're going to talk about hunting with a traditional long rifle, whether it's flint or percussion, versus modern technology. A lot of people feel good and think that they are the master woodsman when they can overwhelm wildlife with the state-of-the-art technology when they go hunting. And every year they rush to the store to see what's brand new, what's better, what can make that easier than last year. If you're looking for easy, there's no gratification in easy. Hunting with a flintlock or a percussion, a traditional, what I call a traditional long rifle, is something that you really have to experience it to understand it. When you're walking through a beautiful open hardwood forest and you've got the weight of that long rifle in your hand, it just balances so nice that there's just something that feels good about it. You just can't replicate that with technology. This beer is darker than I remembered it, but hey, it tastes good. How many guys hunting with a scope centerfire rifle have had this meal? None. They don't understand. When I say that, I don't criticize them. They've never taken the time to experience it and understand how enjoyable it really is. It's not just the hunt. It's not about taking game. It's the rifle, the hunt, being in the woods, taking the game, enjoying a beautiful meal. There's just so much more to offer when you've done it with a traditional long rifle. A lot of times I think people that hesitate to get involved with a traditional long rifle is some of the bad publicity or press or videos that you've seen on YouTube give it a bad name, and they're afraid of failure. The rewards far outweigh any possibility of failure. And part of using a long rifle is preparation and keeping your rifle ready to perform when it's needed. Like I've said in a few of my past videos, I drove over 1,000 miles to Kentucky. It was a long way, but there was some familiar ground that I wanted to see one more time. And it was the itch that just had to be scratched. There's no way I would have made that trip if I thought for a moment that my smoothbore was not going to go off. And when that big Jake, immature Tom, extra mature Jake, he had a 4-inch beard, he wasn't quite a Tom. When I dropped the hammer on that bird, I knew before the flint hit the prison that he was a dead bird. And when it did, it was instant. The ignition of the powder in the pan and the gun going off and the Jake's chin hitting the ground was almost the same time. Now, hunting with a traditional long rifle does take some effort, and it does take some education. There is a learning curve, but enjoy the process. It's fun. But understand that any problems or answers to any issues you might have will not be found at a big box store. When these guys were hundreds upon hundreds of miles from the nearest white person in the most primitive wilderness, they couldn't run down to the big box store to buy a plastic package with the magic elixir in it to make their gun go off. These were primarily illiterate backwoodsmen, and they operated these primitive tools to perfection. Their life depended on it. And if you treat your gun as if I need this gun to go off today, it's the most important thing I'm going to do all day is make sure this gun is ready to go, come game time, it won't let you down. Now, I mentioned that I was going to start doing some fly fishing, and I did sneak out a little bit this week. I caught my first saltwater brook trout, sea run brook trout they call it. I don't know if it was 2 pounds, but it's pretty darn close. And a 2-pound brook trout is a pretty nice fish. I don't care where you catch it. I'll post a picture of that little guy. There's no way we can ever truly experience what they did because we just don't have the wilderness left that they got to enjoy. But we can try and come pretty close and enjoy what little bits that we can steal here and there. Well, there's clothing, equipment, nice campfire, really quiet night out in the woods. Every once in a while, it all comes together at the same time. You know, sitting in the bottom of a big tree, watching a glade or a deer path, and having that turkey or that nice deer walk out in front of you. And as soon as that trigger breaks, before the hammer even moves, you know you're going to have a good day. So if you're of the mind that you have an interest in traditional long rifles, and you look at all the different facets that it offers you for enjoyment, whether it's taking care of the rifle, the history, the bushcraft, the woodsmanship, the magic of carrying it through the woods, the weight of it in your hand, it just feels different. I've done both. And there's some kind of magic about the weight of a traditional long rifle in your hand. It feels different. You can't explain it. You have to experience it. And taking game with it, enjoying different meals, whether it involves a game or some other traditional food associated with that period, there's just so many different facets of enjoyment to get out of it versus the false satisfaction, momentary satisfaction that you get out of that the state-of-the-art technology is going to provide. So we're going to clean this up a little bit. Might have to save that later for a snack because that was a heck of a meal for lunch anyway. Then you know what the course is, dessert. I haven't decided if it's going to be Scotch or bourbon, probably bourbon because we have a Kentucky orientation here. And we'll be back in a minute. A little bit of Kentucky bourbon for dessert. For my dessert conversation today, we're going to talk a little bit about the YouTube channel. It has been extremely frustrating. My first video that dealt with the Kibler Woods Runner had over 25,000 views, and that's great. But the next one had a little bit less and a little bit less. And now I have videos that are up for 2 weeks, like 156 views. I don't know if it's because of my content, and if that's a problem, then that's my fault. Or is it the algorithm that identified that I talk about firearms being flintlock guns, or hunting, or harvesting game, or cooking wild game? Then that's something I really have no control over. So there's a good chance this might be my last video. I'm going to leave the channel up and running with what's there. I think I have over 20 videos. And we'll just see how it works, but I'm not really pleased with the project. It didn't give me the results that I was hoping for. Monetization, that's not a big deal for me. That's not why I do it. But even a short little video like this probably takes me 3-4 hours to put together. By the time I cut and make some preparation, do some videoing, then go home and edit it and re-edit it, then load it. It's no small feat for me or anybody else. So when you see somebody and you're enjoying their channel on YouTube, unless you've actually done it, you really have no idea how much effort and work they put into it. So, would I appreciate it if you liked? Yeah. I would even like it better if you subscribed. Why people don't show just that tiny bit of appreciation for somebody's work, I don't know. I know it's not the positive, upbeat ending that you're used to, but life sucks sometimes, and that's just the end of it. So, I hope you've enjoyed this video and all my other videos. To those who have subscribed and liked my videos once in a while, I sincerely appreciate that. Thanks for the visit, and maybe we'll see you again.